Hello and welcome to Under the Lights, the boxing talk show brought to you by Sportology TV, with myself, Ali Drew, and my co-host, Ouney. On the last episode of Under the Lights, we were joined by trainer Ben Davison, who was talking to us about his fighters, Billy Joe Saunders, Josh Taylor, and Shabazz Masood. We also discussed everything in relation to boxing news, and he gave us some of his great knowledge. But we've got a great show coming up today.
Yes, we have. Guys, this time around, we bring to you one of the female fighters that's making noise in the professional ranks. Female boxing has been great over the last couple of weeks, especially in lockdown. There's been a lot of great fights. So we thought, why not bring somebody who's on the verge of a world title shot, somebody who's the first British female world champion, the World Championships 2012, somebody who's given that L to Claressa Shields. None other than, I don't even need to introduce anymore, none other than Savannah Marshall. Savannah, how are you doing? You all right?
I'm good, thanks, yeah. Great introduction.
I try my best. How's life treating you? I know, you're sort of in camp doing your thing whilst sort of fights are getting arranged. How's things going for you at the moment?
Yeah, not too bad. It's, the squad's just boring. Training, sleeping, eating. It's just boring, isn't it?
You know what, Savannah, I was sort of doing, as we do before we do the show, we do our research and we see what's the latest sort of things that you guys have said or spoke to the media about. I was reading about you in lockdown. You spoke to the Independent part of an article, and they even said that, listen, you were getting bored, or you were looking for jobs at Lidl or supermarkets or anything, things like that. What was the situation with yourself in lockdown?
Yeah, so obviously I train I'm quite lucky that I can train full time. I've got full time sponsors, but one or two of my sponsors had said, look, we obviously we can't pay you, which I totally understood. So I didn't want to leave myself in the lurch, so I started looking for work. Didn't go too well, didn't get a job, but lived life on the other side for a little bit.
That's cool. Savannah, let's talk about what seems to be, well, I'm hearing there's a date in October and there's a lot of uncertainty at the moment, but what can you tell us in regards to when you're out next?
So I'm fighting on October the 17th.
Okay.
It's the Newcastle Matchroom show, which was originally meant to be on April the 4th, and then it got pushed back to June the 25th. So now, hopefully no second wave, it's happening October the 17th, which has just gone 6 weeks.
And do you have much information on that? Like, it's presumably for the world title shot. Is it going to be crowds? Is it going to be behind closed doors? What do you know?
Well, I am penciled in for a world title shot, but on April the 4th, it was meant to be against a New Zealand girl, Giovanna Perez, for her light heavyweight title, but due to obviously COVID and travel restrictions and even getting back into her country, I know they have to go into some sort of program. What's it called when you have to self-isolate for 2 weeks? They have to pay to get back into the country. So I don't think it really worked out for her. So I know that's not happening now. So I still haven't got an opponent. I'm being told it is Newcastle, but whether or not there's going to be crowds, I do not know.
Well, there is talk of a domestic fight with Hannah Rankin. That's been sort of talked about. Is that a fight that you would be up for?
Yeah, definitely. Just seeing in fight camp, the reaction Terry Harper and Natasha Jonas got being a British clash. And for me, Hannah's the only girl there and thereabout at my weight. I've said I'll come down to middle, which is what she operates at. So yeah, I'd love to get it on with Hannah. And although she doesn't have a world title at the minute, she's a former world champion, and look who she's been in the ring with. So it's a good fight for me, really good fight.
Savannah, how difficult is it for you guys, for the female fighters? Because for you to get a big fight, you have to go up or down in weight. With the men, it's different. They've got their people in the division that they fight. They move up maybe, and then that's it really. But with yourself, the fight with Hannah Rankins, you'd have to come down to what you are a middleweight. Maybe she fought at super welter, so light middleweight. So you both have to meet each other. Even if you fight Claressa Shields in the future, you'll have to again come to a weight where you might not be sort of fully comfortable with. How hard is it for you guys?
Yeah, definitely. Well, 2 weeks ago, I was still under the impression that I was fighting for the light heavyweight title.
Exactly.
And now I'm being told I've got to come down to middle. So, but I'm not. Although I've got the height for light heavy, super middle. I'm not. I don't let myself go, really heavy. I think that's all the years been on Team GB. You're always I get weighed every morning. You couldn't put stones on like some pros do. So I've always been quite all right with my weight. But just being told that you've got to lose so much straight away, you start getting cravings for takeaways and chocolate. Whereas before, it didn't bother me. But I'm not too far from middleweight anyway, so it's not it's not like I've got to chop my leg off.
Let's talk about fight camp. You spoke about some of the fights, or you alluded to some of the fights there. Tasha Jonas and Terry Harper, one of the best female fights this year, especially. Give me your take on that. There was a lot of people sort of swaying towards saying that Tasha Jonas should have got that decision. How did you see that fight?
For me, I've known Tash since I was about 16.
Wow.
So I know how good Tash is. I've seen Tash, perform at her best, and I've seen her perform at her worst. So I always knew it was going to be a tough fight for Terry. Terry being the up and coming, obviously world champion, following Katie's footsteps really. But I don't know, maybe I was a little bit biased because I know Tash quite personally, but I had Tash winning by 1 or 2 rounds. And it was upsetting to see because of Tash's age. I mean, although she didn't show that she was in her late 36, but I just think this was her chance to really turn it around. And do you really want to go through them tough 10 rounds? Because Terry is a handful. Do you really want to be putting yourself through that again? But let's just fingers crossed she gets the rematch and she can put the record straight, get them world titles, and Terry can put a lot to bed.
Did you watch the Katie Taylor-Bassoon rematch? And obviously, same result as the first time. But what's your thoughts? Again, same thing. People saying, did she win it? There's a lot of debate about that. What was your thoughts on that?
The same again. I had Bassoon 2 rounds up, so I had her winning. And then after the fight in the interview, when she just said, "Oh look, I've got no complaints," she must have just thought, what can I say? It's happened. She got the decision over me twice. I've got to knock this girl out to get the win. But I think it was one of them. It was just what you liked. For me, Katie had the cleaner shots, the cleaner work, but Bassoon's just relentless. And I felt like, although her shots weren't as eye-catching, I did feel like she had, the high work rate and she scored the more shots. But it's what you like, isn't it, really?
Throughout this sort of lockdown period, Matchroom have been putting on sort of competitive female fights. One in America that stood out was Cecilia Breakhouse versus Jessica McCaskill. Again, it drew a bit of a debate amongst people. Did you watch that fight? And if you did, what did you make of it?
Yeah, I did. To be honest, I thought Jessica deserved it. I thought she did a lot more in the earlier rounds.
Okay.
For me, Cecilia's she's a great athlete, and she's flew the flag for years. But like I was just saying about the whole Tash thing there, it's, how long do you want to carry on getting punched in the face for? Do you know what I mean? And I think in her interview after the fight, I think it said it all, that she kind of, had enough of that. I'd love to see her in the ring again, but whether or not we're going to is anyone's guess.
So, Savannah, just when I look at female sport, especially female combat sport, the one that I look to and I feel like has basically gone so far past its expectations, the UFC. When you look at some of the fighters in there, they've become household names. Someone like Ronda Rousey, even now Amanda Nunes, who's people say is a GOAT, who's the greatest female fighter in this present time. How far do you believe boxing's behind in that? Because when we look at it, as much as female boxing is rising, and it showed that in the last couple of weeks, that we're still so far behind the UFC. What do you make of all of that?
Yeah, definitely. I 100% think boxing's a light years away. And even now with the UFC, you know, it's very rarely you don't get 2 female bouts on one card.
Yeah, they have
very rarely. And now it's just starting that you're getting a female bout on a boxing card. I mean, how many years have we got to wait till, you know, we have a full female fight card? Because I do feel there's some really, even in Britain, there's some really good fights in Britain that could, you know, fill out a good card. But it seems that there's only really Eddie who's putting anything into it. I know Top Rank have got Michaela Mayer. Yeah. Obviously Clarissa's with another promoter, but you know, it only really seems that Eddie's the only one who's doing anything with women's boxing at the minute.
Would you say that's because at this present time there isn't that many professional fighters in the sport as well? Is that possibly one of the reasons?
Yeah, 100%. Like I was just saying there, at my weight there's only Hannah in Britain.
Yeah.
I know the lower the weight you get, the more women you get, but there is some really good women out there, and I just think that maybe Dana White's a lot more invested in it. Like I said, he has at least, you know, 2 women fights on one card, and you know, Eddie is paying attention and he is getting them fights on.
Worst comes to worst, Savannah, if obviously this boxing game it doesn't work out, you could always put your mitts on and try it in the octagon. Try in a cage. Would you ever try that? Would you ever try?
Yeah, I would. The only thing that puts me off is I couldn't make 66 kilo.
Okay.
And that is the highest weight for women, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
That is the only thing that would put me off. But like I said, middle's about right now.
Dana, if you're watching this, you could have a potential star in your hands in a couple of years. Savannah, final one for myself. I know Ali's got one. I want to ask you a couple of things, but whenever your name gets mentioned, there's always obviously a fighter that you beat, and Claressa Shields in the amateurs name gets mentioned. I know you guys had a sort of confrontation when she came to the UK, and you guys had words with each other whilst they were respectful. But how much do you want that fight still? I know loads of people ask you this. Every time anyone interviews you, you get asked the same question, but I feel like we've not talked boxing in so long. That have you still got that urge for it there, or are you just concentrating on yourself now?
Yeah, but I've always concentrated on myself. But you know, I'm not stupid. I don't have an Olympic medal like Katie or Claressa. So really, my big ticket is the rematch with Claressa. You know, and I said in a previous interview that, you know, if that is done properly, that could be the biggest fight in female boxing. Yeah. It really could be, because look what Claressa's went on to achieve. So yeah, there is that, and I'm under no illusion. To beat Claressa, I've got to be the best I can be, you know, and a little bit more. Yeah. You know, but I am confident in myself, and I do believe I've got them skills. So yeah, that is something that I am aiming towards. Yeah.
Do you think she would be up for that? Bearing in mind you are the only person to have beat her. Do you think she would be up for that fight, or do you think, obviously, you know, she's got this massive image now? Do you think maybe she'll try and avoid that?
No, I think she'd definitely be up for that fight, because obviously, going back to what we just said, there's no one there. Like, she's boxed everyone the weight above, the weight below, and there is just a small pool of women. And even from an audience perspective, do you know who wants? I know she's chasing after that fight with Aaliyah Ali, which, you know, she's in her mid-40s, isn't she? Yeah, she so is. It's a bit like where you're meant to go when you've boxed everyone, and I'm that one box that needs ticking for her. So 100%, I do believe she'd jump at the chance of the fight.
We know that you've obviously served time as amateur, and you've, you know, done well in the amateur ranks. A fighter that and a fight I want to ask you, and your prediction on a fight, is Vasyl Lomachenko, somebody who's probably one of the best amateur fighters to come out of the rankings and even one of the best fighters in the world at this present time. He's going to be fighting Teofimo Lopez, someone who's been making a lot of noise in that same division. How do you see that fight playing out?
I haven't seen much of Lopez.
Okay.
But I just think Lomachenko's skills are just above and beyond of anything that is out there at the minute. Where I was having a conversation with someone the other day about it, and we'd just finished sparring, and I was saying when I'd watched him box Luke Campbell, he didn't throw a shot for 2 or 3 rounds. Do you know, at the start of the fight, where most fighters would go out there and, you know, instead of taking the time, they want to take your head off. But he's just so professional, and he just sticks to his game plan so well. Do you know what I mean? After 3 rounds, if you haven't thrown a punch or made a bit of an impression in the fight, anyone would start panicking, wouldn't they? But no, he just kept these cool. But like I said, I don't know much about Lopez, so I don't really want to give an opinion.
You know, you were on sort of the amateur scene in 2012 and just before. Did you hear Lomachenko at that time? Because I've spoken to, obviously it might be a bit more difficult because you were a female fighter and you might have been in different circles. But when I speak to fighters in that period, they did say that, listen, we had heard of Usyk, we had heard of Lomachenko. There was these big names in the amateur scenes that we had heard of. What about yourself? Did you sort of hear that name beforehand?
No, not at all. Like you just said there, that it was only before I left the squad that I started doing, you know, male and female tournaments, whereas before it was the women would go here, men would go there. But when I was coming through when I was about 15, 16, there was a boxer from my amateur club who'd went to the Junior Europeans with England, and my amateur coach, it was in Romania or somewhere, but it went out there and filmed. And I remember him coming back and, you know, on like a VHS, it put this tape in and was like, I want you to watch this boxer. Do you know, he's going to be absolutely unreal. And it was Lomachenko, and he was only about 16, 17 at the time. Yeah. That was the first time I'd heard about him. Yeah.
Crazy.
You know, we're talking about, you're saying that back when you did it, the women's boxing was very separate, you know, everything. Do you think that it's going to be long before it's actually just like women's boxing is just part of boxing? Like it's not all women's boxing, it's just boxing. Like it's just like the same amount of male fights as female fights on a card. Do you think that we're a long way off from that?
Yeah, I do. I don't think I'll see it in my career. Like I said, because when I said that, there's only really Eddie, especially in the UK, that's paying attention and putting the shows on. But even, you know, boxing's a very, you know, working class, old men's sport, isn't it? And there's still a lot of men out there that don't want to see women get hit. Do you know, it's one of them, isn't it? It's still, not to everyone's taste.
It's still got its question marks among some people. When I look online, there is still sort of comments that I read in this day and age, which sort of alludes to that people maybe are not for it. But we are. I think it's getting pushed further and further. But Savannah, you spoke about before when we were talking. You were talking about having cravings for takeaways. What's the sort of best food that you miss when you're in camp?
Do you know, normally I don't really have a sweet tooth, but as soon as you get told you've got to cut weight or diet, I just crave. Like last night I was on Just Eat, like looking at like, no, you get them waffles with chocolate on and crushed Kit Kat over the top. Honestly, I spent about an hour just on Just Eat, seeing what was in the area. I had no like ambition of ordering anything. But in the end, I'll go and get a bowl of cereal.
I don't know why you guys do that. I was sat with Michael Conlon once, maybe about a year ago, and he was in camp for a fight, and we were just sat there going through Instagram pictures of desserts, and he was showing me chocolate cakes, and I was like, now I realize why it is, because you guys don't get that sort of opportunity whilst you're in training camp. So
it's being told you can't have something. Like I said, if I have as soon as you've weighed in and you can eat what you want, you think, oh, I don't fancy it now.
Yeah, because do you binge afterwards? Like, do you think, oh, I just want to eat everything once you have the fight? Or do you actually think, oh, now I'm just not really that bothered. I'll have the odd thing, but...
Yeah, that's what it's like. all sad, but still just being told you can't have something, you want it even more.
Yeah, it's like a kid when you tell them not to press a button, they press it, right? You have to do it. You have to do it. But Savannah, I want to thank you very much for coming on. You've been
thanks for having me.
No worries. Hopefully we get sort of news of an opponent. We know the date, but hopefully the venue and everything else in the coming weeks. And by then, hopefully we get to speak to you before, after again. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Good luck on October 17th.
Yeah. Thanks, Ali.
Thank you, Savannah. Absolutely fantastic to have Savannah Marshall joining us ahead of her fight on October 17th. So good luck to her. Make sure you stay tuned. We have lots more coming up, lots more great guests. So make sure you subscribe, hit the bell button so that you know when our latest shows are out. Make sure you like, leave some comments for us. Make sure you're interactive. We want all the support we can get. We'll see you next time.